Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Talkin' Music with Gerry. I'm Gerry Powers, the Artistic Director of Daniel's Music Foundation. In the past episodes of Talkin' Music with Gerry, we have explored two sections of the orchestra, the strings and the woodwinds. We talked about the ranges of those instruments and their different characteristics. We used different words in our musical vocabulary to describe the sounds. And we learned that the smaller instruments play higher pitches and frequencies, and as the instruments get larger, they can play lower notes and lower frequencies. And when we studied the woodwind section last time, we learned that the longer the tube is, the lower the instrument can play. So in today's episode of Talkin' Music with Gerry, we're going to discover different kinds of brass instruments. We will talk about the way they are played and the kind of musical groups in which they are played. Then we're going to have a look at the four instruments of the brass section of the orchestra. We'll learn about their history, how they're played, and about their ranges and tunings. We will also use our musical vocabulary to describe their sounds. And then afterward, we will listen to some musical pieces and see if we can identify the instruments that we're learning about.
The family of brass instruments gets its name because the instruments are made of brass, which is a yellow-colored metal that is made from copper and zinc. Because the instruments are made of metal, we can hear them from far away. In fact, brass instruments are the loudest ones in the orchestra. Today's modern brass instruments are comprised of different lengths of long tubing that are bent and twisted around in many different ways so that they can be held and carried easily. At the ends of the tube are the mouthpiece and the bell. Brass instruments can be heard in all different styles of music all around the world. They are used in orchestras, symphonies, concert bands, marching bands, jazz bands, and brass ensembles. Most of the brass instruments in the orchestra have valves attached to their long pipes, which look like buttons, except for the trombone, which uses a slide. Brass players use their breath to produce a sound, but unlike the woodwinds that use a reed, brass players vibrate or buzz their lips against a metal mouthpiece shaped like a cup. When a player blows into the mouthpiece, their lips vibrate with the air, and that is what creates the sound or pitch. The lip buzzing is amplified by the mouthpiece before it enters the tube of the brass instrument. The valves open and close different parts of the pipe, so when you press down on them, they change the pitch. The trombone pitches are controlled with the lengthening and shortening of the slide. Let's have a look at two examples of the lip buzz technique, as shown by a trumpet player and a tuba player.
Hi, this is the lip buzz technique. When I first started playing the trumpet, I wouldn't actually use the mouthpiece, and it looked like this. But it looked a lot like I was spitting. But when you put it up to the mouthpiece, it'll sound like this. Finally, when you put it up to the trumpet, it'll sound like this.
The first instrument in the brass family has many predecessors. In fact, silver and bronze trumpets were discovered in the grave of King Tut in Egypt. People in ancient civilizations blew into an animal horn or conch shells to produce a sound. Ancient trumpets were used for religious purposes, like the shofar, as hunting horns, war calls, and signals for the arrival of royalty. In medieval times, for example, trumpeters were highly guarded by military units since they were crucial to relaying instructions over great distances with their bright, vibrant sound. Most likely the trumpet wasn't used musically until the Renaissance. But the most basic purpose of the instrument, making a brassy sound, has existed for thousands of years. There are several predecessors of the modern trumpet. The natural trumpet appeared in the 1400s and was used mostly in military events for charges and retreats. In the mid-1400s, the slide trumpet came into being. The player held the mouthpiece and moved the body of the instrument back and forth to change pitch. The bugle was invented in about 1810. It was used to signal troops in battle and to gather troops to formation. The cornet was invented in the 1820s and was the first instrument that introduced valves in order to make it easier to play. Another German invention in the 1830s was the flugelhorn, which has a sound that is much more mellow compared to the modern trumpet. The trumpet that is most popular today is the modern B-flat trumpet. It was invented in 1861. It's a slender brass pipe with 3 attached valves, which is curved and bent into long loops. If you stretched out the tube to its full length, it would be 4.5 feet long. The trumpet weighs about 2.2 pounds and has a range of F-sharp 3 to D6. The B-flat trumpet has some close relatives, mainly the C trumpet, which was invented in 1878, and the D trumpet, invented in 1890. There are more instruments that are related to the trumpet, including the piccolo trumpet and even the plastic trumpet. But the trumpets that are most commonly used in the orchestra are the B-flat trumpet and the C trumpet. Words that describe the trumpet are brazen, sonorous, startling, and victorious. The next instrument in the brass family is the French horn. The French horn does actually come from France. It made its debut at a ballet in Paris in 1664. It comes from the French hunting horn of the 1600s and produces a wide variety of sound, ranging from very loud to very soft, and from harsh and blaring to mellow and smooth. The French horn's 18 feet of tubing is rolled up into a circular shape with a very large bell at its end. There are anywhere from 2 to 8 French horns in an orchestra, and they play both melody and harmony as well as rhythm. To play the French horn, you hold it with the bell curving downward and buzz into the very small mouthpiece. Your left hand plays the 3 valves, and you can change the type of sound you make by the way you place your right hand in the bell. It's a very difficult instrument to play, but it is quite a beautiful instrument. The French horn weighs about 18 pounds. The range of the French horn is from A1 to F5. Some words used to describe the French horn sound are majestic, triumphant, soft, and melancholy. The next instrument is the trombone. The trombone was developed from an instrument invented in the 15th century in France called the sac-bout. The trombone is the only instrument in the brass family that uses a slide instead of valves to change the pitch. A standard trombone is made of long, thin brass pipes. There are 2 U-shaped pipes that are linked at the opposite ends to form an S. So the total length of the pipe can be extended or shortened. You play the trombone by holding it horizontally, buzzing into the mouthpiece, and using your right hand to change pitch by pushing or pulling the slide to one of 7 different positions. If you stretch the trombone out straight, it's about 9 feet long. There are usually 3 trombones in the orchestra, and they play pitches in the same range as the cello and the bassoon. The 3 trombones often play harmonies together. The sound has a dark and metallic timbre and ranges from a melodious and subdued piano to massive forte explosions. A bass trombone plays from B-flat 1 to B-flat 4. The tenor trombone plays from E2 to F5, and the alto trombone plays from A2 to G5. Did you know that the trombone was introduced to the world in the famous Fifth Symphony by Ludwig van Beethoven? The sound of the trombone is powerful, dark, heroic, and eruptive. The last instrument in the brass family is the tuba, which is the grandfather of the brass family. The tuba is the largest and lowest brass instrument and anchors the harmony not only of the brass family, but the whole orchestra with its deep, rich sound. Like the other brass instruments, the tuba is a long metal tube curved into an oblong shape with a huge bell at the end. Tubas range in size from 9 to 18 feet. The longer they are, the lower they sound. Standard tubas have about 16 feet of tubing. Tubas weigh about 20 pounds. The tuba was invented in 1835. There is generally one tuba in an orchestra, and it usually plays harmony. You play the tuba sitting down with the instrument on your lap and the bell facing up. You blow and buzz into a very large mouthpiece and use your hand to press down on the valves, which changes the sound. The range of a tuba is D1 to F4. It takes a lot of breath to make a sound with a tuba. Let's move along to our listening exercise. Let's see if you can identify the brass instruments that we've learned about today.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Talkin' Music with Gerry. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. In the next episode, we will listen to all the percussion instruments in the orchestra, and we will learn how to describe those. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for walking down the path with me in our wonderful world of music. There's so much more to talk about, so I'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you later. Arrivederci, sayonara. See you later, alligator. I have to say, it's been great, and it's gonna be greater. There's so much more to talk about, so I'll talk